Well, hello, I'm Kevin Rudd, President and CEO of the Asia Society, and welcome to our original content series, Asian Americans Building America. We call it ABBA, which I'm told was the name of a much earlier Swedish pop band, but there you go. We're speaking with many people across the country from different backgrounds who are making an extraordinary impact on the community and across the world. And today we're joined by Jennifer Phang, a rising award-winning Asian American filmmaker who will direct Disney's The Pocket Watch. Welcome, Jennifer.
Thank you, Kevin. So happy to join you.
Now, tell us about your background. Where are you from? What part of the world? When did you get to America? All those sort of things.
Oh, yeah. Great question. I'm actually, from the United States. I was born in Berkeley, California. But my mother is from Vietnam, and my father was born in Borneo in Sarawak, Malaysia. They met in Brandeis University and started a life here and had me.
Okay. Well, Brandeis is a good meeting place, and I know where Borneo is, and I know where Sarawak is. And I certainly know where Vietnam is. What part of Vietnam did your mum come from?
My mother's hometown is Mita. They were that's in South Vietnam, and it's pretty close to Saigon.
Okay, is it between Saigon and Vung Tau, that part of the country?
I think so. I think you know the map better than I do. Sounds like, yes.
That's all right. Well, it's closer to us in Australia. We sort of take a big interest in the countries of Southeast Asia and Vietnam in particular. Hey, tell us about your film and your work and the films that you've done. You have a distinct style, making dramas into fantastical realities. Tell us about that.
Sure. I started getting interested in film when I was in high school. And I think it started with kind of my involvement in art. I was involved in writing for a surrealist magazine, and I was exposed to a lot of really wide variety of films, from Die Hard to Blade Runner to Delicatessen, which, if you don't know, is this French kind of art house film about apartment building where everyone's kind of dealing with this terrible butcher. So I was just, my interest in film was piqued very early on. And so that had a really that kind of diverse range of film art that I was engaged with as a kid, kind of fueled my aesthetic as a filmmaker. So a lot of the work that I do now involves, yes, building fantastical realities, but also having those realities kind of bringing together these kind of really relatable stories about families, really grounded characters, and having them navigate these really fantastical realities. I think the films that have kind of put me on the map include Half-Life, which was an independent film that I made in 2008, and then later on Advantageous, which was a science fiction mother-daughter story that premiered on Netflix in 2015. And
it was Half-Life, right? That's the one. Did you feature that at Sundance?
Yes. Half-Life played at Sundance, and Advantageous played at Sundance as well.
We, the Asia Society, have been supporting young filmmakers at Sundance for quite some time, young Asian filmmakers. So how did it go at Sundance? I mean, what was it like being there with your first one, with Half-Life?
With Half-Life, it was just an amazing moment. I think I had been, at film school at AFI, and I'd been watching the Sundance channel that existed at the time, still exists. And I just, as I was making films, I said to myself, I want to one day play my films at Sundance. What I like about these films is that they're relatable. I can see myself in these films. These characters deal with real issues and have really complicated backgrounds, complex backgrounds. So when I got there, it was kind of a dream come true. Anyone going to Sundance knows that it's a bit of a circus. There are a lot of people. Everyone's, trying to get their film seen and shown. And so that was kind of a really big growing up moment for myself, going, okay, this is the landscape of independent film right now. And you know, I am kind of emerging as this person who is representing, you know, the Asian American, you know, community. I'm a face of Asian America. So that was kind of a really great kind of moment of awareness for me. And I had this lovely time, you know, we met a lot of some celebrities, and, you know, people responded really well to our film and loved that Half-Life was a mix of, you know, multiple genres. It's primarily a family drama about a young boy who is trying to save his mother from a dysfunctional relationship with her boyfriend. But he also goes into this animated fantasy world where he imagines himself kind of battling this boyfriend in this kind of surreal, colorful, animated space. So it's got a lot of themes, and it came from, Half-Life has a lot of themes that came from, you know, my growing up in Walnut Creek, California, and just, you know, my interest in pre-apocalyptic and post-apocalyptic sci-fi.
I love that, pre-apocalyptic and post-apocalyptic sci-fi. I personally am pan-apocalyptic myself, so.
What does that mean?
It means across all apocalypses, pre and post, and through. Hey, listen, you're now about to do Pocket Watch, which is the sequel to Disney's The Descendants. The film's an American musical fantasy comedy. Tell us about it.
Oh my goodness, Pocket Watch. This is quite a journey I'm about to go on. We're really just in the initial stages. We're about to go location scouting. And so what I can say about it is that it is trying to expand on the world of the Descendants that a lot of us know and love. And so we're going to meet these two new characters, Red and Chloe. Red is the daughter of the fierce Queen of Hearts. So we'll get to meet the Queen of Hearts. We'll also get to build the world of Wonderland, which is a dream come true, as you might imagine, and interpret, you know, what does Wonderland mean to me and what does it mean for the Descendants world. We'll also meet Cinderella and her daughter, Chloe, and Chloe is going to be this really perfectionist, good girl. And there are two personalities, Red's personality, Red, who's going to manifest as kind of a rebel and really strong-willed person who's rebelling against her Queen of Hearts mother. She's going to go up against and also possibly form some sort of collaboration with Chloe as they try to kind of save the world when the Queen of Hearts kind of makes a move to take over Oradon. So it's a really amazing new venture for me. I get to kind of head up a feature, and I've headed up a number of features, but I've also worked in episodic, so it's fun to kind of take on the exciting journey of leading a team from the inception of a project. And I'm going to be working with.
Well, good luck with this one.
Writers.
It's a big one. It's a big one. You've got Disney behind you.
Yes, yes.
It's going to be such a great opportunity for you. Tell me, in your film career so far, have you experienced prejudice? Because you're obviously a very talented filmmaker, but you're also an Asian American filmmaker. So have you been on the receiving end of racism or racial slurs or racial prejudice? Give us a sense of that.
Wow, that's a really great question. Yeah, I mean, you know, what's interesting about, you know, the word racism is, you know, people kind of have a vision of what racism looks like. And often racism in some people's minds are, you know, incidents of violence. and that is those are kind of the worst manifestations of racism, and those, they're very kind of very, very relevant today. What I've experienced in the professional environment is a much more interesting kind of version of what you're talking about. And, it's something that I think the industry, is actively working to kind of grapple with. There's an active participation from kind of our industry leaders to make sure that we're creating a very diverse and inclusive environment. But to your question, I think that because our industry has been more homogenous than not, more male, more white, at least the industry that I'm working in, there is this kind of learning curve that a lot of us are kind of grappling with, where people maybe have this kind of carry this unconscious bias. And the funny thing about unconscious bias is that it's kind of, you don't know you have it, right? And so there are many people who believe that they have really great intentions when welcoming in someone who doesn't look like them, or who a director like myself who has an Asian face, who is a woman. Women are definitely underrepresented in the directing world, women of color even more so, right? So when you have people who are already established in the industry kind of trying to do their best to welcome in people who are new faces, they carry with themselves these kind of unconscious and inherent biases sometimes. And so that's something that I've negotiated. I've often tried to, you're kind of, I come in as a director, I'm a leader on a set, but if I'm overly assertive, sometimes it's mistaken as, it rubs people the wrong way because they're not used to a very assertive Asian woman. And sometimes there's a resentment when an Asian woman's, too loud or, too authoritative. And it just kind of depends. I'm happy to say, though, that over time, as I've had more and more jobs, I've directed, 20 to 30, television episodes. And now I'm into my, third feature. Things are changing for me in that people kind of respect my experience. But I think when people are breaking in, it's a little bit more challenging because there's a challenge to kind of figuring out the best way to operate with someone who's new, but also might be triggering unconscious bias.
Yeah. Well, it's been fantastic talking to you, and I've got to say, I just wish you so much well in the career path you've chosen. Having succeeded at Sundance, 2 good films out there and more, and now with this big one you're about to embark upon, you're really beginning to have a huge impact in the industry. So we at the Asia Society are delighted to see this sort of success by stellar young women out there in the film and movie business. So, Jennifer Phang, thank you very much for bringing your creativity to the big screen. Your work inspires future generations of Asian American filmmakers. Congrats on your new Disney film, Pocket Watch. We'll be watching. I'm Kevin Rudd from the Asia Society. Thank you for joining us on this program.